Race 2 for the Euroformula Open Championship at the Red Bull Ring is about to get underway. Here's how they line up on this reverse grid race. It's Fernando Barrichello from Michael Shin on the front row of the grid, then the BVM racing driver Francesco Simonazzi starting ahead of Levente Revesh. On the third row of the grid, Ed Pearson and yesterday's race winner, Brad Benavides, followed by Paolo Brajnik and Jose Garfias. We have a safety car start. Wet tyres are mandatory, so the clock starts now. The 30-minute timer, or 20 laps, whichever we hit first, is underway now. It is Chris Stevens and George Morgan in the commentary box for this race number 2. And George, race control taking everything out of the driver's hands and saying, nope, we're going for a safety car start.
Yeah, certainly are. We're about to get this race underway, though if you factor in that the timer is ticking, we are in amongst race conditions, starting under the yellow flags, full course yellow safety car conditions. Very shortly, though, I'm sure we will be underway at full speed. But as you can see, the story tells itself. The water, the rain, littering across the circuit. It is absolutely, well, it's really greasy out there, so a challenge for the drivers. But what is also going to be adding to that challenge is the fact that the sun is coming out, and with that now coming out, it will of course lead to the track potentially drying in certain areas, leading to the point that the drivers will have to be on their toes looking for the best points on the track. Obviously, bear in mind they are on those wet tyres, so if the track was to dry quite dramatically, it could cause quite the twist in the tail. I mean, one thing we can say, unfortunate for Jose Garfias, of course, remember, stuck it on pole for yesterday's race, not starting anywhere near the front this time after essentially DNFing from that race yesterday, now in P7. And Brad Benavides just in front of him. Edward Pearson ahead of Benavides after a scintillating debut race that puts him in second.
Effectively, what we've actually ended up with at the back of this grid is the top 3 in qualifying reversed.
Reversed, yeah.
Because it was Garfias with a sensational pole in his first ever appearance in the Euroformula Open Championship. Ed Pearson third on the grid in also his first appearance in the championship, and second yesterday. But poor Jose Garfias in his first start. As we see, drivers typically struggle off the line in their first Euroformula Open race. Both Pearson and Garfias did, but Garfias ended up getting a bit sandwiched between 2 cars, damaging his front suspension and causing him to pull over before they even got to turn 3. And so his Euroformula Open debut came to a very premature end. But he's got 2 more opportunities this weekend to make up for it. It will be starting from 7th on the grid for this one after not finishing yesterday's race. He has yesterday's race winner, Brad Benavides, directly in front of him on the racetrack. And what's going to be interesting about this is that yesterday we had similar conditions, a bit more wet than this, but everyone was experimenting with the different lines. You know, are you going to follow the driver in front of you and see what they do? Are you going to try and do something different? And by the end of the race, we saw this sort of convergence as the drivers got more and more experience in those conditions. Whereas in this race, they've already got that experience under their belt, and so it might be a little bit harder to overtake as a result of that, but everybody should be up to speed on what part of the racetrack they should be exploring for the grip.
Yeah, absolutely right. Barrichello also with a great chance starting from the top. Obviously, Jose Garfias won't have the same issue this time around. Obviously, starting under the safety car means we get essentially a rolling start as opposed to the grid start that they would usually have at the start of a Euroformula Open race. So there shouldn't be any issues with the clutch this time. And therefore, he can just continue onwards and try and persevere up the grid. And if he laps here in the race like he did in qualifying, then he's going to be in for one hellacious ride.
But the only difference, I suppose, George, is that Jose didn't get that experience. He'll have watched the videos and watched the race back, seen all the onboards of his teammates, and he'll know roughly what he's supposed to do. But he hasn't actually driven this at speed because he didn't do more than, you know, 500 meters in yesterday's race before it all went awry. So the safety car will be in this lap. We're on the 2nd lap of this race. I imagine we are going to go down to time because we've started under safety car and the lap times are going to be a little bit reduced because of the wet weather. We are on the wet weather tyres, of course. So it is unlikely we will get the full 20 lap distance in. We got 19 in yesterday before we hit the 30-minute time limit. So I would expect this to happen again for today's race. could be some dry weather running for race 3 a little bit later on this afternoon, because although it's been raining all morning, it has sort of quietened down a little bit now, but there's not really a lot of temperature out there at the moment to really dry the circuit. But perhaps with all the racing we have at the Red Bull Ring here this weekend, a dry line might start to form at some point. Fernando Barrichello then, in that blue and yellow Motor Park Run car, will lead the field around the last 2 corners to get this race underway. It will be Michael Shin, the South Korean, who was fighting for the podium yesterday but missed out, sadly, will be following him. And then Francesco Simonazzi, then our podium contenders from the race yesterday, as Barrichello is leaving it an awfully long time to get it going, slowing right up. Shin's almost running into the back of his teammate there, but out of the last corner, Barrichello puts his foot to the floor, and we are racing at the Red Bull Ring, and Michael Shin immediately pulls out to the left-hand side. He can't overtake him before the start line. I don't think he did so. He was 59 thousandths of a second behind when they got to the timing line, to the outside of the Lauda curve. Barrichello holds his nerve there, but doesn't get the best of exits, and Michael Shin goes through into the lead, out of turn 1 with a lovely exit out of the first corner. And it looks like Levente Revesh has managed to get himself up into 3rd position ahead of Francesco Simonazzi straight away, but Barrichello is coming back on the inside at turn number 3. Is there more braking grip down there? Yes, there is. He does get up the inside. Simonazzi's on the inside there as well, and once again it's a chop and change for the lead as Shin comes back underneath Barrichello and does just about hang on to the lead as we head down towards turn 4.
Yeah, Michael Shin fitting through the tiniest of gaps on the road through towards turn 3. Barrichello thought he'd have another try, but once again they're going to go wheel to wheel through turn 4. Barrichello going the long way round, but once again Michael Shin closing that exit off and able to retain the lead of the race. Simonazzi still in the midst of a scrap between he and Levente Revesh as they head down in towards the next left-hander. Remember, Revesh pulled off the most dazzling overtake at this portion of circuit to take 3rd place in yesterday's race 1. Different set of circumstances though this time, because Simonazzi retains in this instance. Further back, because Brad Benavides also on the move. Barrichello with a moment. Here comes Simonazzi around the outside, coming out of the Rochenberth curves. Brilliant from Francesco.
Yeah, now, can he pull clear by the time they get into the Rindt curve? Yes, he does. So a little mistake there from FIFO. Barrichello just costing him 2nd place there again. Simonazzi runs out a little bit wide. Now we saw plenty of moments yesterday from drivers out there, but Simonazzi now himself runs wide at the final corner. That might give Barrichello a run up towards the first corner. We're seeing Linus Stern on the run up the hill. It's a big late braking zone up there, and we see Brad Benavides making progress. I think he's just got up the inside of Revesh. Well, he certainly thought about it, but still tucked up behind the Hungarian, is our championship leader. He has a good run himself, actually. Might be able to make the move into turn 3. They emerge from the mist and the spray. It's Benavides to the outside of turn 3 to try and get 4th position away from Levente Revesh. And Barrichello with a dive up the inside. Very good on the brakes into turn 3 is Barrichello. That's the 2nd dive he's had. But once again, I think he's going to get out-dragged on the way into turn 4 by his opponent as Michael Shin tries to establish a gap. He's 1.9 seconds clear of the battle happening behind him, as Benavides behind still tries to get around Revesh. But Barrichello another dive on the inside into turn 4, and he takes 2nd place back from Francesco Simonazzi, as still Revesh holding on to 4th.
Yeah, almost Revesh inviting Edward Pearson in behind as well, just to give Brad Benavides a little bit of hassle coming out of Slosh Gold. It wasn't to be, however. Shin being allowed to career onwards. 2 seconds now is the gap. Barrichello, though, fighting back against Simonazzi in great style. Obviously, isn't scared to get the elbows out is Fernando Barrichello, and that's exactly what you need to do, especially around a short circuit like the Red Bull Ring, as he flies through towards Ring Corner now. Simonazzi somewhat disconnected off the back of the yellow and blue Motor Park livery that sits in front of him as they fly down through towards turn 10 in the midst as well. Further back we can see Edward Pearson exiting out to the final corner. Also in behind is the another first timer here to the championship, Jose Garfias. Both of them though giving a good account. They're not too far away at all from the back of Brad Benavides. They come out of turn 1. This time it's Shin who still leads the way, though Barrichello is starting to draw closer. Revesh now on the attack once again, this time on Francesco Simonazzi. Might yet get the run heading up through towards turn 3. Just look at the coverage of spray coming in off the back of Barrichello's car as Revesh now looks to the outside. Simonazzi closing off the inside, coming in towards turn 3. Ravesh forced to take the long way round, but this will give him a lovely exit, heading down through towards turn 4. But has he got enough? No, not quite yet.
Great battling all the way through the field, and surprising not to see Brad Benavides just kind of carve his way through it like a hot knife through butter, considering he won yesterday's race by 15 seconds. Once he got out into the front of the field, he was never to be seen again. It was an absolutely dominant performance from the Floridian, who leads the championship. Michael Shin looking very comfortable out there at the moment, and now 2.3 seconds clear of FIFO Barrichello, and going for his second win in the Euroformula Open Championship is the 19-year-old South Korean racer. So FIFO establishing himself in second position as well, and pulling 1.4 seconds on Simonazzi as he continues to look over his shoulder, really, at the likes of Ravesh and Benavides. Pearson and Garfias holding themselves very well as well in their first Euroformula Open weekend. Remember, it was pole for Jose Garfias and a podium for Ed Pearson yesterday in very similar conditions to this. Both of them potentially planning to join the field full-time for next year, which would be very great to see, especially with the arrival of the new Dallara 324 chassis in 2025. For now, the drivers make their way back up towards turn 3 with 15 laps remaining. Michael Shin looking very comfortable out there, but fastest lap of the race last time around was Fernando Barrichello. He took just under a tenth out of Michael Shin's lead.
Yeah, he was faster than Shin again in the first sector as well, so Fernando Barrichello starting to turn on the style and starting to surge closer to the back of Michael Shin, who obviously was right in the midst of the fights yesterday as well, but this time he has the clear view that Brad Benavides had yesterday. Brad not scared to pull out the big fights either. He's still trying to close down Levente Ravesh, and also by extension Francesco Simonazzi, as well as they come in towards the Roche-en-Berth curves once more. Still plenty of racing still to come. 18 minutes and 36 on the clock, and we've still got 15 laps on our screen to go as we now see them come out of the middle sector, and very soon they will meet sector 2, purple second sector from Michael Shin, so a little bit faster but not by much than Fernando Barrichello, who once again puts in a decent sector and is trying to clear Simonazzi at this point, and it is in fact faster than Simonazzi in that middle sector. What I will say is that Simo was actually purple in sector 1, so it's spread out at this moment in time, and Michael Shin certainly not gallivanting or careering onwards away as fast or as further ahead as he was at the very start of the race. Benavides still being met with Pearson as well further back, and I must say, give credit to the two debutants. Of course, it takes some getting used to, of course, moving from different machinery into the Dallara 320, but they enjoy it. And we heard from Jose Garfias about how enjoyable driving this car around the track certainly was in qualifying, which of course led to him taking pole position ahead of race 1. It may not have gone to plan in the race, but plenty of positives to take in a debut weekend.
A very different machinery compared to what they've been driving so far this year. George Ed Pearson joining from the GB3 Championship, and should be with us in Barcelona as well for the penultimate round of the season in a couple of weeks' time. And Jose Garfias coming from the Euro Cup 3 Championship with Santalok Racing. And so, yeah, very different machinery compared to this very light, nimble and agile Dallara 320, which is very much a people pleaser in terms of the driving. The first comments out of every driver's mouth, they say, I absolutely adore this car. Doesn't mean it's easy to drive, as Garfias and Pearson found out when they had their first shakedown at Oschersleben earlier in the week, and some sim preparation as well, with varying rain levels as well, I was told, for exactly this scenario. And so that's obviously done them a world of good. So Barrichello just has a little swapper there between the two final corners. There's been plenty of harem-scarum moments out there over the rumble strips during the weekend's running so far.
Purple middle sector for Fernando Barrichello, and he's closed up to within 2 seconds now. Remember, it went into 2.1 territory not too long ago. It's 1.8 now. Barrichello's closing. Yeah, he took 0.4 of a second out of our race leader last time around in FIFO Barrichello, but Simonazzi was quicker than both of them as well. A tenth taken out of Barrichello's 1 second advantage in second place. So Shin starting to come under pressure
now. We'll see that bright blue nose just start to creep into his mirrors, slightly bigger and bigger with each passing lap. Fernando Barrichello still looking for his first victory in the Euroformula Open Championship, has had 2 podiums in the last 2 rounds, both in race 3 at the Hungaroring and at Paul Ricard. So we'll see if the Brazilian can find his way through in this particular race as well. Obviously, Michael Shin been on the podium a few times as well, 4 podium finishes for him in his part-time campaign. He joined us at the second meeting in Hockenheim and then joined us for Spa and Budapest as well, but wasn't with us last time out in Paul Ricard. So it is a part-time campaign for Michael Shin.
Barrichello is lapping tremendously right now. Purple again in the second sector, and he's 1.2 behind Michael Shin now. So remember, that was 1.8 at the very start of the lap. So Barrichello is driving like a man possessed at this stage. Obviously, in pursuit of that first race win. And if you tell the story of Fernando Barrichello, it has been a journey, a voyage of discovery with this car, I think, for him. Because, of course, coming into this, didn't quite get the results he would have necessarily envisioned at the start of the championship, but working closely with the Motor Park team, trying to find a way to use this car. Recent results suggest that he's starting to find his feet, and I have to say, through the course of this race, it definitely seems that he now has a chance to maybe even claim a first victory. I tell you what, he's got a great chance here because he's still closing on the back of Michael Shin, and the first sector would suggest that he's gaining more time once more, very nearly 1.5 tenths gain there.
They are putting quite a bit of distance, the top 3, between the battle behind of Revesh, Benavides, Pearson and Garfias. It's 2 seconds between the top 3 and the rest of the field. Benavides still looking at the back of Revesh, the man who was romped clear yesterday. Our championship leader, of course, took his 7th win of the season yesterday. Well, here we go through the middle sector. So this is the part of the track where Tifo has been lapping considerably quicker than anyone else on the racetrack, and he already took 2 tenths out of him on this lap in the first sector. It was only a 1/10 of a second in the middle sector this time for Barrichello, but the gap now down to 1.0 seconds as we are soon approaching half-race distance.
Little twist there from Simonazzi, and once again coming through the final 2 corners. He's now going to venture through turn 10, but he must be pushing with all his might because he doesn't want to allow Barrichello to get away here. Obviously doesn't want to get himself too detached from the front 2. Thankfully for him, he's not, but that was quite a helter-skelter move heading through towards turns 9 and 10, and the car losing grip underfoot, obviously in these wet conditions that we have that are obviously visible here at Red Bull Ring, with the spray being kicked up off the back of Michael Shin's car, obviously covering Fernando Barrichello in behind, and by extension again from Barrichello's car back to Simonazzi as well. But look at this, once again Barrichello on the move. The first sector green for him, but it was also green for Michael Shin, and on this occasion 7 thousandths better off was Michael Shin as we take a little look here of Michael Shin coming out of turn 1.
Seesawing at the wheel perfectly, dealing with that wheel spin on the exit. You see they are struggling to put that power down from the Spiess engine. Oh, Michael Shin very wide in turn 4 there. That might have given Barrichello enough momentum to try and draw alongside. That 1 second gap might have just evaporated with that one little mistake, and Barrichello's into the lead. With 11 laps remaining, Fernando Barrichello leads at the Red Bull Ring.
Fernando Barrichello, he took the opportunity that it was presented to him coming out of Slosh Gold, and it was a golden opportunity, was it not, folks? Michael Shin now down to second, a slight error, and getting onto the curb on the run out of turns 4, and it's going to allow Barrichello now to continue onwards, and all of a sudden for Michael Shin, Simonazzi could yet become the threat. So here now, an opportunity for Barrichello to potentially enlist a first race win of the season and a 3rd podium as long as he can keep his car in front.
I think that Barrichello's last race win came in Formula 4 Brazil in 2022. This is a long time coming. He has raced in F4 UAE since then and the Spanish F4 Championship. So this is how he got it done. Just out-dragged Michael Shin after that mistake from the South Korean, and now he's got Francesco Simonazzi for very close company as well. And once again, Barrichello looking confident. He was already closing in as Shin takes a very different line through turn 3. Simonazzi, the much narrower line that creates a brief overlap, but then you see Shin gets the exit on the way into turn 4. And actually, it's looking quite equidistant now. This is what we're talking about with the race lines that were being tried and tested yesterday before we ended up with a bit of a convergence. The only difference really is that Simonazzi is not in a motor park run car, so maybe his car operates a little bit differently and the other lines work better for the BVM car.
Yeah, quite right. I mean, Simonazzi loves these conditions as well as a driver. Doesn't mind getting the rear out on the Dallara 320 chassis. Has been in this championship now for quite a long time, and one of the longest reigning drivers on this grid, and of course competing all the way back in I believe, in fact, it would have been 2021, I think, when he first made his debut here in the series.
Yeah, and then halfway through the season.
And got his first victory at this track, of course, in the final race of the day. Back in 2022 when he was challenging the likes of Oliver Goethe, who unfortunately was involved in that big crash at Baku today in Formula 2, but thankfully he's okay. Of course, Goethe went on to win the Euroformula title and since then has become part of the Red Bull team, and that's quite fitting seeing as we're here at the Red Bull ring. But coming out now of turn 1, 9 laps to go. Barrichello leads the way.
And fastest lap of the race from the Brazilian last time around, a 1:38.945, 4/10 of a second quicker than Barrichello. The gap up to 1.0. Shin's work is not done yet because he may still well have another crack. And we've already seen some brilliant wheel-to-wheel battling between those two drivers in the early stages of the race. There could yet be more, and especially if Simonazzi can throw his hat into the ring as well. He's quicker than both of them in the first sector on this lap. And it's just brewing up and bubbling up nicely. And also, I will say that Revesh is closing in. He's dropped Benavides by a second and is now working at bringing down the gap to the top 3. He was the second fastest driver on track last time round.
Yeah, coming through Rauschenwerth once more. Barrichello now starting to breach that 1 second gap. A little shake of the front nose there from Michael Shin as they come through the next left-hander once more. There you see Levente Revesh also looking to dig deep and find a little something. Of course, another driver that featured on the podium yesterday. Of course, took a race win earlier on in the campaign as well, back in Paul Ricard. Remember, took a trio of podiums there, did Levente Revesh that weekend, incidentally. Took the opening race with a podium as well, followed suit then in race 2. Race 3 was the big one for him though, amassing maximum points in that one across the line. But as they now make their way down towards turn 1 again, Simonazzi still trying to cruise onwards. On that last lap was purple in the first sector, purple in the second sector though for Barrichello over the last lap, which led to the fastest last lap as well with a 1:38.639 as they now cruise uphill once more. The Brazilian sensation, obviously with Father Rubens watching on, will be absolutely thrilled to see his son finally rising to the occasion here in the Euroformula Open, and he looks comfortable. He's 1.5 seconds through as now Simonazzi once again tries to attack Michael Shin.
Yeah, again, the two lines meeting at the apex of turn number 3. Shin gets the drag out, and another fastest lap of the race from FIFO Barrichello last time around, and pulled another 4/10 of a second over Michael Shin. His lead now 1.5 seconds, and so now for Shin in that white wing-tipped number 23 motor park car, that's how you spot him, is now going to be more occupied with the BVM racing car behind him, that day-glow yellow-nosed Francesco Simonazzi, and maybe they're going to have to start thinking about this man, Levente Revesh, in the red wing-tipped number 11 car. Again, that's how you spot him, who is closing them down. He was quicker a couple of laps ago. The gap's hovering around 1.3 seconds now, but if they start squabbling, he'll definitely be on their tail. Yeah,
and with Revesh also being a man in form as well, he took his 4th consecutive podium. Obviously, went 4 for 4 in terms of podium since Paul Ricard. Obviously, he opened it up in race 1. Race 2 then followed. Race 3, we alluded to the race win. And then, of course, took the 3rd place yesterday as well. But Simonazzi back and actually on the tail here of Michael Shin on the run up through towards turn 1. So the door is wide open here. Here comes the Italian stallion up the inside of Michael Shin. Shin with the switchback on the exit coming out of turn 1 as well. Revesh watching everything inside, but it's all eyes here on the battle for 2nd place here, as now once again it's Michael Shin and Simonazzi on the run up towards turn 3. Simo opens up the throttle as they now cruise up through towards the heavy braking zone. Shin tries to squeeze. Simonazzi back backs out. Covering off is Michael Shin, but Simonazzi has found the inside. Not quite enough leverage though, but the run up through towards Slosh Gold is still very much open. Simonazzi in the wheel tracks. Can he find the slipstream? Can he generate the pace? They're going to go wheel to wheel once again. Michael Shin with the favourable inside line. Simonazzi braking slightly earlier, but a wiggle of the car is certainly going to detract any momentum whatsoever for the BVM team. Simonazzi will have to try again.
So much awareness from Michael Shin. He did exactly what he did on the opening lap at turn 1. Just get underneath the car in front and get the momentum all the way up into turn number 3. And he wasn't phased at all when Simonazzi tried the move again. Oh, is this a moment for our race leader, Fernando Barrichello, last time around? Whoa!
Good catch, Fernando.
Big swapper. Well caught there. He doesn't need to push so hard, really, because he still did the fastest lap of the race last time around with that moment, but he's now 2.6 clear of this battle. And look, Revesh now joining the party. And so if this lot will squabble, that will just take all the pressure off of FIFO Barrichello. Again, Simonazzi takes such a different line through turn number 10. And we are going down to time now with less than 5 minutes left on the clock as our two debutantes still battle out for 6th and 7th. At the back of this field. And heading up towards turn 1, it's Garfias behind in the 99. That's the chassis that Noel Leon won the championship with last year. And then Ed Pearson in 95 got the blue roll hoop on top of his car. Annoyingly similar coloured helmets, though. So that is can be difficult to spot. But there's Barrichello, and again the two lines converging at turn number 3. Simonazzi drew the overlap, but again Shin with the better exit as Garfias, our pole sitter in race 1, tries to get underneath, but Pearson closed the door very nicely and almost got a gearbox full of front nose there from his teammate.
Yeah, I don't like that Simonazzi might have been able to catch Michael Shin coming out of turn 3, lost a little bit of traction once again like he did on the previous lap, so he's forced to wait it behind. Once again, Garfias and Pearson coming nose to tail once more. The 99 against the 95, and the 99 looks like he's going to take it. The Mexican Jose Garfias, who stuck it on pole for yesterday's race, well, he's managed it, hasn't he? He's moved up to 6 and has managed to get ahead of Edward Pearson, who now moves into his slot, 7th place.
Yeah, 6th now for Jose Garfias with 3.5 minutes left on the clock. So that might be 2 laps to go, I'd have thought, when Barrichello comes across the line. We do have, sorry, yeah, it's going to be a slightly shorter distance. I think it will be 4 laps we miss out on of the scheduled 20, but it is a 30-minute time limit. And of course, remember, we started under safety car conditions. And it's closing up once again for 2nd position. As Barrichello starts the penultimate lap of the race with an advantage of 2.4 seconds. Here comes Simonazzi again on the inside into the Lauda curve, but can't do anything about Michael Shin in front of him. And again, Shin thinking about the exit. As Simonazzi didn't get the best run off the corner, and he's going to have to start thinking about that because the Hungarian, Levente Revesh, is closing in on them as well, heading back up towards turn 3. And let's see if the line works for Simonazzi this time. Shin is just so confident with that line he's got that he can just out-drag Simonazzi. He's like, yeah, you can be alongside me at the apex if you want, but I'm the one who's coming out ahead and will be well clear by the time we get to turn number 4. So he doesn't even have to think about it. Simonazzi was very good on the brakes. There is confirmation that top of the screen we will run to the 30-minute time limit rather than the scheduled 20-lap race distance, and there is only a lap and a half now that separates Fernando Barrichello from his first Euroformula Open race victory, as Michael Shin looking very set for a 4th podium finish, a 5th podium finish I should say, sorry, of the season. And Simonazzi will close in a little bit on Brad Benavidez' championship lead, but the Floridian will still have a comfortable margin going into this afternoon's final encounter of the weekend as Revesh snaps the rear of the motorpark car over the rumble strips in the final couple of corners. 1 lap to go, 4.318 kilometers for Fernando Barrichello as he heads into turn 1 for the final time. Still, Michael Shin has got his mirrors full of BVM Racing's Francesco Simonazzi heading back up towards the hill. Surely Simonazzi pretty soon is going to start running out of corners. So on the run up towards turn 3, can the Italian do anything? He doesn't look close enough to have a dive, but he has been very good on the brakes into here before.
Yeah, obviously up again, up the inside, looking to try and carry the speed, but it just looks like, as it's shown over the last few laps, Michael Shin able to carry the speed around the outside far easier than Simonazzi can coming through the inside, heading through the inside curve. But we're now watching Fernando Barrichello make his way down the hill at Slosh Gold. He has been stellar this race, obviously putting his laps together. He has generated consistency, and the story has told itself. The recent races have certainly come to the fore here for Fernando Barrichello. He's given everything through the course of the campaign. It has been a challenging season, but nonetheless, he has stayed determined and focused in his goals, and of course working with his father Rubens Barrichello. I'm sure he'll be watching on emotional scenes, I'm sure, folks, in the Motor Park garage very shortly. This will taste all the sweeter as he now takes a trip down through towards turns 9 and turns 10. Barrichello, he's on the rise.
The son will soon emulate the father as Fernando Barrichello comes through the final corner, and for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship, Fernando Barrichello is victorious in race 2 at the Red Bull Ring. His advantage 1.4 seconds in the end. Michael Shin makes it a 5th podium finish in his maiden season of competition in the series, and Francesco Simonazzi just missing out on the podium right at the end. And Jose Garfias, once he got clean air there, banged in the fastest lap of the race right at the line. Fantastic stuff from our 2 debutants as well, but it's all about that man, Fernando Barrichello. And if he could see where he was in Portimao at the start of the season, this is an age away from where he is now.
16 races it has taken, but finally it's come to him. He has sought for it. He fought for it. It's Fernando Barrichello on the top step of the podium for the first time this season. The Brazilian who has come all the way through the F4 systems, through Brazil, through F4 UAE, of course, racing in those championships. Let's take you through the results. Chris, take us through it.
Fernando Barrichello for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship, who wins race number 2 ahead of Michael Shin, with Francesco Simonazzi rounding out the podium. Levente Revesh and Brad Benavides in 4th and 5th, and then our 2 debutants, Jose Garfias and Ed Pearson, rounds out the field. Paolo Brashnik never got going for MV Racing. In terms of the championship, still Benavides, who leads 100 points clear of Francesco Simonazzi, who in turn is now 19 clear of Levente Revesh, and Fernando Barrichello moving up to 5th in the standings ahead of Michael Shin after his maiden victory. And I imagine this is going to be quite an emotional scene in Parc Ferme. I'm not sure if Rubens is here. I haven't seen him around, but I guess we'll find out. But certainly his engineer, Kai Degenhardt, will be one of the first to greet him and congratulate him, the man who engineered Nolly onto the championship last year. And he will hopefully not have too much colourful language for us when we get into Parc Ferme. It has been a habit. As Barrichello...
Caught you on the grid once.
Yeah, he did. But Barrichello, and yeah, I think first victory for Barrichello since the 2022 Formula 4 Brazil Championship. He took 2 wins in that season, but since moving over and competing in the UAE for a little bit, and then the Spanish and Brazilian Formula 4 Championships there, which didn't yield a win for him, and joining the Euroformula Open filled with the support of his father. And this is going to be a great moment for Fernando Barrichello. If he can just get the steering wheel on. There we go.
I can imagine the hands are shaking and quivering,
yeah.
but nothing quivering about that result. Finally, he says, victory for Fernando Barrichello.
Oh, apologies. It was FIFA who ended up doing it.
But that is relief being let out, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
Eventually, it may have taken a little time, of course, 15 races without one, but recent form has to suggest that he has got it in his locker, and he has found the ability behind the wheel of the Dallara 320. 2 podiums before this. He's made it 3 in 3 rounds.
This is going to be a feel-good, popular result. It's always, a popular result when the son of very successful Grand Prix drivers end up finding their own success in the junior category. Of course, last year we had, Charlie Wirtz as one of the drivers among many others. Obviously, we've had Jakob Bergmeister for a while. He was his first win in Paul Ricard. This is Great result. The top three in race 2 at the Red Bull Ring. Francesco Simonazzi makes it another podium finish for BVM Racing in 3rd, just missing out on 2nd in the end after a very close battle with this man, Michael Shin, who takes his 5th podium of the season in his part-time campaign in the Euroformula Open Championship. He also battled with our race winner for the first time in the Euroformula Open. It is Fernando Barrichello on the top step of the podium. He's taken many of the rookie wins, but now it's the overall.
Fernando Barrichello, winner at the Red Bull Ring on a very wet day. Finally, you must be happy.
What a day. I mean, it's been such a tough year for me. Just struggling from coming straight from the F4, and I cannot thank enough these guys, Kai, Sergey, and Oscar, for just believing in me. It's been really tough, but I think this shows how much hard work we've put in, and yeah, I have no words, to be fair. It hasn't really, like, I don't believe it yet.
And the start of the race was interesting, but you were very strong and you kept fighting, and then it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a good start. I tried an approach which didn't really work, but then was just being able to be calm and then like relax again and then keep pushing. So yeah, it was a tough one. I just want to send a huge hug to my family. Dudu, mãe, papai, puta que pariu, amo vocês.
Well done.
Let's take a look back at the highlights of race number 2. We had a safety car start. When we got going again, the pole sitter Fernando Barrichello was under immediate pressure from Michael Shin, who started in 2nd. The pair went side by side into the first corner, and it was Shin with the momentum on the run up the hill. He squeezed past Barrichello, who ended up dropping down to 3rd place at one point after this small error just allowed Francesco Simonazzi to drag his way past the Brazilian. But we saw him fight back almost immediately. First of all, getting down the inside of Simonazzi into turn number 4. And moving on his way as the cars battled further back. And then a mistake from Michael Shin allowed the chasing Barrichello to close up much more quickly than anticipated and end up taking the lead into turn number 6. From there, he never looked back. He established the gap. He was already closing in on Michael Shin, but he didn't have to think too much about the chasing cars after establishing a very healthy gap indeed to take his first Euroformula Open victory ahead of Michael Shin and Francesco Simonazzi. What a moment for the Brazilian. A very emotional moment in Parc Ferme. And apologies again for any language you might have heard there. And now to the podium. Francesco Simonazzi on the right-hand side there. 10th podium finish, I make that now for Francesco Simonazzi after a very quick look at the standings. Michael Shin on the left-hand side. Of course, the Motor Park representative there as well. Fernando Barrichello on the top step. Here's the anthem.
Well, a tremendous victory there for Fernando Barrichello, and it must have meant a lot to hear his nation's anthem played aloud in the arena that is the Red Bull Ring. Francesco Simonazzi accepts the 3rd place trophy. He, of course, in the midst of the title scrap between he and Brad Benavides. Of course, Brad Benavides not taking a podium this time around. It's actually the 2nd time Brad Benavides has not appeared on the podium. Michael Shin also accepting a trophy as well. And not only is he a rookie winner, he's an overall race winner. Well done, Fernando Barrichello. And you'll be hoping that it's the first of many, Chris.
Of course, still 2 more rounds of the championship and 1 more race today for him to add to that tally. Slightly adjusted schedule. We're underway at 5:25 for the last race of the day now, as we've had to push things back ever so slightly due to a number of interruptions during today's running. But for now, in race number 2, it is Benfito to Fifo Barrichello after his first win in the Euroformula Open Championship. Race 3 coming up at 5:25 this afternoon.